بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده المنتجب ورسوله المرتضى وأشهد أنكم الأئمة الراشدون المهديون المعصومون المكرمون اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
That the angel of death, according to Hadith, when he comes to you, because angels, they are not of mulk, they are not of this world, in the sense that they are not made of the way we are made. So when they come into this world, or when they act in this world, they project an image for you of them. Like, for example, for Bibi Maryam, it says that the angel came to her when she was worshipping in the temple to give her the news of Isa. It was Jibreel. And Quran says, فَتَمَثَّلَ لَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا. Tamathala means he presented, like a mithal of a man. Jibreel is not a man. فَتَمَثَّلَ لَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا. He came in front of her as an upright man. So the angel of death comes. For some, it is beautiful, for some not, because these angels of death project themselves, according to Hadith, as a reflection of your soul. Literally, the kind of soul you have is reflected in that angel you see. So we have in Hadith that Ibrahim alayhi salam once turned and he saw a man who was so handsome, so beautiful, that he exclaimed, "Who are you? Allah, I have never seen a person as beautiful as you." And the person replied, "Oh Ibrahim, I am the angel of your death. What you see is a reflection of you. This beauty that you see, that has startled you, is the beauty of your soul, Ibrahim." Right? So when you see these angels, they are a reflection of that soul now that is decoupling from this body and is ready to enter a new body, and you see them. And the function of the angel is to assist in this process. The angel of death is to assist in this process. It's a very complicated process. We don't know exactly how it works, how the body lets go the soul. I mean, it might be argued that the soul leaves the body when the body is too weak to hold on to it. Or it might be argued that the soul leaves the body when the soul is too strong for the body to hold on to it. In any case, whichever way this happens, it happens with the agency of the angel of death. And he comes there and decouples the body from the soul, and the soul moves on. The body begins to die immediately. The soul is not dead. In fact, it is more alive than ever before. It is more discerning and aware than ever before. And it sees now things happening in this realm to the body it left behind, and it sees now the new realm it has gone into, and within that there is a wahsha, an anxiety, even for the people who are good. There is still anxiety. Allah says in Surah An-Nahl that to quell this anxiety, the first thing the angel of death does, because this person is very anxious, because they've heard so much about the next world, they don't know how it will be. Everybody is anxious. Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam on the night of Shab-e-Zarbat was looking up and saying, how far is the journey and how little is the asset, isn't it? That's what he was saying. So Quran says that the first thing they do is they say Salamun Alaikum. To the believer, they say Salamun Alaikum. So now, you are going to see many wondrous things you never saw before. But be at ease. Abshirkum bil Jannah. You are destined for paradise. So that immediately gives that sense of relief, but still, it is a difficult time. Which is why we are told on that night when they are buried, we recite a prayer that is called Salatul Wahsha. And that gives this kind of comfort to the person. Now, Hadith says, this Hadith from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, that Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, that the soul knows that it no longer belongs to this world and there's another world waiting for it, but because it has not known any body other than this physical body, it identifies very strongly with it and finds it difficult to separate its own existence from the existence of the body with which it was so intimately connected for so many years. And consequently, it feels everything that the body is visited on the body as if it is being done to itself, which is why we are told to treat the body with care. Because it is not the body that can hurt. The body does not have any active pain receptors anymore. However, the soul does. And any mishandling of the body, any insulting of the body, anything done which somehow brings the reputation of the person who's died away by people saying he's like this, look at the body's like, all this is very hurtful for the soul. And the most hurtful thing and the most dreadful thing, and the Imams have mentioned this, is when the soul, again from Imam Sadiq, when the soul stares at the pit of the grave and realizes that this is actually the death that it had thought about many times, but the reality is here. And there is a sense of disbelief. And that disbelief is gradually dispelled when they lower the body. And at that time, the soul does speak to the people left behind, in a sense to say to them, are you actually leaving me? But we were together. And are you going to just put me in this hole and go? And there is this anxiety. And Imam alayhi salam said that the worst thing is when they begin to pour the earth. And it feels an incredible amount of choking and squeezing as it sees the tons of dirt fall on a body, which is not itself anymore, but it feels that, and Imam alayhi salam said, and this is the squeezing that is mentioned for the grave. Hope. When the person is interred now and gone, the soul is around that body, and it is the soul now that is inserted by these angels into what is known as the imaginal body, the badan al-mithali, another body, which has got limbs and eyes, and it has got awareness and senses, but they are hugely evolved compared to what it had before. Language now is not a barrier. Distance now is not a barrier. It sees angels and it sees the next realm, BARZAKH. Imam alayhi salam said, and by the way, I would highly recommend this book. I brought it with me. A few years ago, Shaykh Bahmanpour had written a book, Nasim-e-Abadiyat. Nasim-e-Abadiyat was a book that describes the stages right from the death till the day of judgment, based on Hadith and Quran. And when I first came across it, I remember thinking that this is one of the most hopeful and well-written works on it, where when you read it, you feel, no, this is sensible, and this is how fairness it should be, and this is how it will be, inshallah ta'ala, based on Quran and Hadith. And then it was translated, and Wolfed printed it in 2016, and I think it is there in our bookshop. Definitely this book, Towards Eternal Life, I would recommend for people to read. Hadith says that initially the person feels abandoned. Especially it watches that while it is going through the most momentous event in its life, people are walking away. It watches, as Hadith says, it watches in wonder as people are laughing, as people are moving back to their lives, and it calls out behind them that, look, what about me? What about me? Spare a thought for me. Why do you not pray for me? Why do you not think of me? Why have you already moved on to what is to come next in your day? These kind of things. And then there is a deep loneliness. And the person wonders whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He will get to them, whether He will bother with this, because he realizes now the significance or insignificance of his existence compared to the vast entirety of existence. Then Imam said, the first thing that happens is that suddenly there is an appearance inside this grave. It's illuminated with the presence of an angel. And this angel is wondrous. This person has not seen many angels, and each one it sees is more wondrous than the rest. And this one introduces himself as Ruman. Ruman is the first angel that comes in the grave after the angel of death took the life. And he is called the examiner in the grave. According to Hadith, Imam Sajjad has talked about it in one of his du'as in Saifa and also in many of our Hadiths. And he speaks a language that is universal to the soul. There is no need to speak in another language. It is a language that compresses information both from you and from the angel that would, according to Hadith, fill volumes of books but just in one phrase. Because there is much to get through. And Ruman says that I need for you to relive your life so that I can attest to it in your presence. This person says, I don't remember, I had done so many things. He says, don't worry, I will awaken your memory. And he brings his memory so that this person actually doesn't just remember, he relives every moment. And as he relives every moment, another thing happens, and that is he begins to realize his motivations behind every act. And so a lot of times, we have a memory that makes us think, kharab manas nathi, wahaya gyo to, aa kero to, aa saru kam kero to, and we think those are good things. But we've forgotten what motivated them. Now suddenly you remember why you did them. And you realize when you did them, it didn't have a noble intention. Not as noble as you seem to remember. And suddenly to your horror you find out that you did things which you were hopefully banking on, but they were not done for God at all. They were done for all sorts of other reasons. Right? And so in this process of discovery, the person begins to see himself perhaps for the first time in his life and realizes what kind of person I am. There is no lying there, it just comes up. In Hadith, he says, according to Imam, that he reaches a point where he doesn't want to say. So Ruman says, continue. He says, I don't want to say because I am ashamed. At that time, Imam says that Ruman changes into a very solemn and very frightening form and says to him, you are not frightened in front of Allah, you are frightened in front of me. Speak everything that you have done. And this person begins to speak. And in this way, an entire volume of his life he recreates. And then Imam alayhi salam said that Ruman takes this book, if you like, and he inserts it into the chest of the person. And he says to him, this will lie now with you till the day of judgment. And immediately that is inserted into him, the form of that deceased changes into something that resembles beauty or changes into something that resembles ugliness. Because it is, if you like, a sum total, a nichor we say, a sum total of your entire activity in all your life. And it is there compressed and inserted. Of course, in the day of judgment, these books will be opened much wider and they will have much more detail. Right. At this point, three things happen, depending on the person. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says that there are some people who are so good and their matters have been finished in dunya which were against them and they have been forgiven, that really there is no reason to keep them in the grave, in limbo anymore, and they are admitted into the Jannah of BARZAKH. The Jannah of Akhirah is different. Remember, dunya means us who are walking here and those we have buried. That is dunya. Within that there is a connection. Akhirah is what happens when the world is destroyed and the hereafter comes through, and that is a different realm. Between Akhirah and dunya there is no connection at all. But within us who are alive, as we say, and those who are in the grave, there is a connection. I mean, we enter Barzakh, as you know, every night in our dreams. We are in the same land as those people who are dead, and that is why sometimes we connect with them, and those connections are true. So now, they are entered into the Barzakh of heaven. There are others who any goodness they did has been finished in dunya, and there is nothing really now to give them any more comfort. And they are immediately admitted into the barzakh, hell. Then Imam alayhi salam said, but the vast majority, almost all of humanity, are in an intermediate state where their situation is not so clear, whether they ultimately will be of the people of paradise or people of hell, or those who will go to hell for a while before they are released. Because those who go to paradise are never released from it, never have to quit it or exit it. But those who go to hell usually are slowly cleansed and then they moved out, because hell is a kind of restorative punishment to restore you back to the cleanliness of the soul. So because this matter is not known, they are left alone. Now, the first two groups receive the angels Munkar and Nakir, or Bashir and Mubashir. They come just to sign off and to give hujjah to the person that the place you are going to, you deserve that, so that you don't feel that any injustice is being done to you. So they get the questioning in the grave. And they are asked those fundamental basic questions. What did you worship? Who is your Lord? Who is your prophet? Who is your book? What is your book? Or who are your leaders, and so on. And the very evil are also questioned. Once this questioning is complete, the person realizes that that is exactly where they belong, because the proof is presented to them from themselves. So then they are admitted into these two places. The others, the angels don't come to them. There is no questioning in the grave for them. However, there is a life of sorts, and they will begin to live a life depending on what happens to them from dunya, what kind of input they get from dunya, and so on. And the Imam said, and vast majority of them go to sleep. Go to sleep. And then on the day of judgment, they wake up when we just read in the ayah in Surah Yasin, Ya waylana man ba'athana min marqadina. When the day of judgment comes, they say, what's going on? Who woke us up from our sleep? Who has taken us out from our beds? But those who are aware, those who are alive, the prophets and the righteous people, they tell them, Hada ma wa'ada ar-Rahman, get up. This is what God had promised. The day is here now. Because they were alive in Barzakh, they were active in Barzakh. Those who are active, the most active in Barzakh, are the ones who are remembered often by us. Right? So, for example, you send thawab to people, you send you send salam to people, the imams and so on, they are alive because they keep receiving it. You send la'nat on people, they are alive. They keep receiving it. Right? Those two groups are alive. The vast majority of others are in some sort of level of stupor and sleep, and they will wake up on the day of judgment then for accounting to take place. And that is the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that their books of actions are open and we can influence that. We can give them something which adds to that, inshallah wa ta'ala. And this is the meaning of certain things we say. So for example, two questions that normally get asked. When I say that there is no question, they say, to pacha mein talqeen kyun pade? Why do we recite talqeen always? Talqeen is mustahab, by the way. To answer that question, let me answer a previous question that people ask. People say that, look, Abbas, this namaz-e-janaza, I have to recite it. Can I lie in it? I say, no. But it says, Allahumma inna la na'lamu minhu illa khayra. Oh Allah, I give witness that I know nothing about this person except goodness. Wa anta a'lamu bihi minna. And I knew plenty of bad things about this person. In fact, this person tormented me. This person did dhulm on me. This person has taken my money to his grave. Whatever. Different examples you get. How can I say, Allahumma inna la na'lamu minhu illa khayra? I feel like a hypocrite saying that, because he has not got any goodness in mind. So these are the two questions that are asked, and they are valid questions. I remember the first question has been answered in different ways. Sayyid al-Khoury, marhum rahmatullahi alayh, gave a beautiful answer to this. And he said, yes, do you know what is the greatest khair? Said, the greatest khair is Wilayat Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala. And we have that in hadith that a mu'min should always thank Allah when he wakes up to say, Ya Allah, you put me on wilayah of Ali bin Abi Talib, was a great favor of you. So the Marja said that what you are doing is you are giving testimony that this person is a Shia. Allahumma inna la na'lamu minhu illa khayra. Oh Allah, I know nothing about him except that he is a muhib of Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salam. Based on that husn zan is the second thing, that when we recite talqeen, what we are saying is, Ya Allah, this is from the first group, not the second group. This person is from the group who has been forgiven his sins and is now going to be admitted to Jannah of Barzakh, and so will be questioned by the angels, and that's why we are coaching him for this. We don't believe him to be of those who are just going to go to sleep. We believe him to be of those, inshallah. So that's why we say to him that isma' ifham, listen, understand, oh so and so. Hal anta ala ahdi alladhi faraqtana ilayhi? Are you still on that same belief that on which you passed away from us? Because you used to say you were a Muslim and a mu'min. I hope you're still on that belief. And then we say to him, إِذَا أَتَاكَ الْمَلَكَانِ الْمُقَرَّبَانِ. Soon, 2 noble angels are going to come to you. As we leave, they're going to come to you. When they come, وَسَعْلَاكَ عَنْ رَبِّكَ, and they ask you about your Lord, وَعَنْ نَبِيِّكَ, وَعَنْ قِبْلَتِكَ, and so on, لَا تَخَفْ, don't be afraid. وَقُلْ فِي جَوَابِهِمَا, tell them in reply, Allahu Jalla Jalalahu Rabbi, and so on. So we are coaching them. And then, as the hadith says, that these angels begin to come into the grave as soon as the mourners have departed. That's why we do a second talqeen sometimes. All this is something that is going to happen to every one of us. Every one of us. We're going to go that route. The question is, in which groups do we go? Where do we end up? And this is something that is squarely in our hand at the moment. Right? What we get in life is not in our hands. Some of us are born with some health issues. Some of us are born in families that are religious. Some of us are born at the time of the Prophet. Some of us are born never having seen a prophet. All this is out of your hands. It's out of your hands. However, that doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because that is not life. According to Quran, this is not life. It is like you are allocated into multiple examination centers which are different from everybody else. You enter into an exam hall, you're given a paper and you walk in. You need to do that exam, that's all. But akhirah and barzakh, what comes, that is squarely in your hands. You can never say that the deficiency and the handicap, I am blind here. Why? You have done it all yourself. The genetic material, according to Hadith, that we are born with is to be ascribed to our parents and grandparents and so on. Imam alayhi salam said that the genetic material of barzakh, and especially of akhirah, that a person possesses, is made up of 2 things. His aqeedah and his amal. They form that human being. And then they form his strength. And they form his weakness. And they form his liability and his power and his access and his proximity to God and so on. Each and everything you created yourself. Literally. You made yourself. And that is how you will look. And that is in itself the greatest misery for a person, is when he recognizes a fault and knows he did it. It's him who made this hand this way. And that is the greatest pleasure as well, when he sees the power, he recognizes, I did this. I created this out of sacrifices I made, out of things I did of goodness. This is from my hands. I can blame no one else for what I am today.